and welcome to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson. It is finally summer, the season to kick back, relax, and be carefree. But considering the current economic climate, you may want to be careful when it comes to your summer spending, especially if it means taking on additional debt. Joining me now with advice, I should say, on how you can have some summer fun without the debt is Kirsten Bradley, manager at BDO Personal Debt Solutions. Kirsten, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me again. Um,
Before we get into it all, can you share again a little bit about yourself and about your role at BDO Debt Solutions?
so my role at BDO is I'm actually an insolvency analyst, which means that I meet with people. We talk about their debt, decide if there's, maybe a way that we can help them without having to take further steps. But sometimes it means going into something like a bankruptcy or consumer proposal. So I help them through that process and help them to some financial freedom.
And if I can ask, what is it about your role that you really enjoy?
I love seeing people walk out feeling that they've just taken a huge burden off their shoulders. That is the best part. That moment, I always use the analogy that you're taking that backpack off, you're leaving your debt behind, you're moving into a budget that you can sustain, that's going to give you some freedom, and it's going to make some choices for your future. And I love that part.
I would agree with you. I use a different analogy. Mine was given to me by a former mentor of mine, and she used to describe it as someone may be coming to you and their mind is like that bingo ball machine where things are just doing this. And by the time you have a consultation with somebody who can at least give you some guidance and give you the options that are available to you, all of a sudden those bingo balls just settle down. And
Mhm.
it's like you say, it's leading somebody into that financial freedom that I think they've been craving for usually quite a long time. So I appreciate that comment that you had there. So now, of course, we're heading into the summer days, which we've all been looking forward to. And we know, though, that BDO's Personal Debt Solutions, we're cautioning Canadians to be anything but carefree when it comes to their summer spending. And I think that's because you want to prevent that long-term pain and stress for that short-term enjoyment.
Very much so. I mean, people definitely take a more relaxed approach when it comes to summer and their finances. We've been bundled up in snowsuits and we could love the winter, but summer just brings out that need for adventure, that need for us to come together. We're not afraid to travel. We're not afraid to get in the car. As we start to look at that, we're realizing that we're saving less, but we're spending a lot more. So, being able to know that you can come up with a plan because summer's expensive. And you're right, in this current economy, we really do have to watch. There's a lot of people struggling right now. And more than ever, we have to watch how we overextend because we definitely don't want to be paying off credit card bills into the fall and winter.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Of course, whether it's our current pro Canada sentiment or the economic uncertainty that we've been sort of facing since January, or maybe it's a little bit of both, surveys are showing that more Canadians, including many here in Ontario, we might be optioning or taking the option of having that staycation this summer. I'm definitely one of those people. I'm not going very far this summer for my little break. So staying closer to home and scaling back, I think, doesn't mean that you can't have fun, obviously, this summer. There are ways to still have that carefree summer without being careless when it comes to our finances. And beginning with that, I think having that summer budget, I think, is a great first step. So, Kirsten, can you just walk us through the benefits of having that budget and sort of ways to create that?
For sure. I think, Shannon, you said it correctly. Budget is the key word. The cost of everything right now is going up. We know, without these holidays and times off, that we really are looking at ways to budget at all times. So we have to determine first, what can we afford? Really looking at your bills, looking and sitting down to go through what do I need? in order to make sure that my bills are paid and to ensure that I'm not falling into debt, and then determine from that what can you afford. And I know sometimes it's hard, but we have to sort of look in that structure. But there are also ways of being able to cut back. And sometimes, if you think of the idea that during the summer we're off and we're out of our house and we're enjoying the outside, why not see about temporary doing some disconnections for some of our subscriptions? If you're not watching TV, why are we paying all these cable bills or subscriptions to gym memberships if we're not going to use them? So save some ways that way. Even something as simple as watch your thermostat. If you're not home all day, why is your air conditioner running? Why have you got the windows open and the sun beaming in? Let's find some ways to cool the house down without adding to our cost. So if we can cut some things back, lower some bills, you might have just opened up some room for your budget to be able to enjoy some of the summer activities, and thinking of those different ways to enjoy summer. Is it entertaining at home? Is it a day trip, a staycation, as you said? Or, is it involving an actual getaway? You have to factor in all the costs, though. Are you looking at gas, hotels, food? So when you sit down with your budget, don't just think about the fact that this is what you plan on doing. You have to really sit down and break those numbers down.
I think there are some definitely creative ways to reduce those expenses to find those extra dollars. You're right. I think creating that budget, especially for those summer months, the summer months are a bit unique, especially for us here in Canada. I mean, the kids are out of school, and all of a sudden there might be that cost of daycare or babysitting cost because as parents we might still be working through those months unless you're a teacher, but even with a teacher, the income it decreases during those summer months. And so there's something unique about planning for the summer and having that budget created. You mentioned it can be a little bit painful. It can be a bit of a reality check, but having those creative ways of cutting the costs. I like your idea about looking at your thermostat. It's something that we kind of ignore, but it's definitely something that we have control over. And so if we can reduce that expense, it might mean that there's some extra dollars there to put towards something that, you might want to plan for the family. I think those are really good ideas. Now, do you have any other advice moving forward, different strategies, creative ideas on how to stick with that budget that we've created?
For sure. No, a lot of Canadians, as you mentioned earlier, are considering doing staycations. So, really, let's be honest, staying at home, there's such a beautiful country we live in. Why not take advantage of that? I mean, there's so many places that most people have never explored. Try being a tourist in your own city. We sort of rally around when friends come to visit and we take them places we've never been before. Do that as part of your summer. We're really fortunate because we live in we live in Simcoe County. And we have a great place to explore. There is so much right in our backyard. We have water and beaches. We have hiking trails. We have parks and just so many places for us to reach out to. But we also have so many festivals. There's the Butter Tart Festival, the music festivals, Kempenfeld. There's even a carrot festival. I don't know if you know that, but there is a carrot festival even. So, I mean, whatever your interest is, music or art, whatever it is, it's right here. Think about rediscovering the library. There is a lot of resources right there and a lot of programs that they have to offer as well. So, sometimes our vacations mean that we have to travel. And so if that's the case, and that's a situation where you have to leave and you have to fly someplace, you're visiting family, etc., then really plan that out as well. Think about if you're having to book a flight, try not to book during peak times, picking middle of the week, early morning flights, evening flights, whatever that might be. And when it comes to getting where you are going, can you look at hotels that maybe are alternatives? They don't necessarily have to be the 5-star hotel. Can you look at some creative, Airbnbs or staying with family? Let's have a tent in the backyard, have some adventures. Even looking at when it comes to shopping, a lot of times we go to these places and we go to these fancy restaurants. What about going to the local markets, seeing what they have available, trying out and local tasting? It's going to reduce the cost quite a bit, to be able to find that sort of alternative. Look at packing a picnic. Travel when you're traveling with sandwiches. I mean, I know we used to do that big loaf of sandwich, and being able to kind of have a backyard potluck. When I look at the summer, our family does something every year, and that's a family Olympic. So we actually gather our family all together, and we have all sorts of activities for all the age ranges, and they all get to participate in it. And everybody brings food, and they bring memories that are going to last forever. And when you think of the cost is minimal, but the impact is so great. And I think those are the things we need to really focus on.
Yeah, I agree with you. You mentioned there about traveling with family, and I think that's one of the things that I've considered. Especially if you're a family with younger kids, and their grandparents are well and available. I think it's a good idea that if they have the ability to come along with you on whatever you're doing, it can help to share the cost of the hotel or the Airbnb maybe that you're staying with. And not only are you're experiencing that with your kids, but then their grandparents are also getting those memories as well, because they love to watch their grandkids having a great time. So I think that's a really great idea. Um, one of the other things you mentioned about the picnic in the car, ours was always having the egg salad sandwich in the car on the road trip. So yeah, that's a really great idea. And two, as well, if you're thinking about if you're staying in a hotel, looking for those continental breakfasts, I'm a huge fan of those. So I think those are some really great strategies. One of the other things too I thought of was sometimes if you're going to a city that has a lot of maybe tourist attractions, the local tourism board might have discounted offers, whether it's grouping those attractions together or something like that. So those were some ideas too that I had thought of just ways. But I really like the ideas that you came up with, especially that library idea. I think that was really great.
Well, I think what's interesting is, you were mentioning your own memories of being in the car. And I think that's something we forget as adults is that, we try to do so many big things, but we forget that when we have memories of our own childhood, they were often very little things that hold the greatest impact. And we have to hold on to that because sure, we can try to spend the world on our children, but really when it comes down to it, it's the memories they have with us.
I completely agree with you. And those are really great tips. And so now we know following some of this advice will be hard for many, especially if your friends and family look like they're having a whole lot of fun on social media. And so Kirsten's going to have some tips for us on avoiding that summer FOMO and the you only live once mentality when Money Matters returns after the break.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to RogersTV.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at RogersTV.com. Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
Welcome back to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson. My guest today is Kirsten Bradley, manager at BDO's Personal Debt Solutions. And Kirsten is sharing advice on how you can have summer fun without carrying the debt. Kirsten, before the break, we talked about creating and sticking to a summer spending budget, as it is a unique time of year where expenses can change quite drastically. And you also shared some great ideas and tips on how to manage those costs and try to keep them lower. Now, we know sticking to a summer budget can be hard. Of course, in this day of social media, we are inundated with posts encouraging us to spend. And in summer, these posts obviously heat up and they are constant. And it's only natural, obviously, to want to be a part of that fun. So, do you have any advice for us on managing that summer FOMO and you only live once mentality?
For sure. No, it's very true. I mean, we look at how often we are on social media, how often our children are on social media, and that FOMO or fear of missing out really is something that is unavoidable. It is constantly being posted. People are constantly showing these fabulous times they're having on beaches, at cottages, on patios, drinking and dining, and the list can really go on. And when you think of this, obviously we want to join in that fun. We want to experience all those carefree, fun memories. But what we're not seeing on those posts is what it's costing. What the financial impact is. We're not showing us, their credit card statements to show what they've just spent for that cottage rental or, going out and dining. So being able to really kind of look at that idea that if you think of we only live once, and we say that saying all the time, wouldn't you rather choose to live a lifetime of experiences than just this one? So, and I think sometimes we have to remember that the impact of our actions, yes, it can be fantastic for that one moment, but we have many moments in a lifetime. So, step off of the social media, avoid it. Take the time to be outside and disconnect. There's really nothing wrong with kind of removing the devices. There'll always be that I wish I could do something, but you have to live in the moment.
Now, when we think of the financial strain that so many are experiencing right now, and summer, the influence of social media, I often feel that it's many parents maybe that are feeling more of this pressure when they, the fear of missing out. Obviously, as parents, we want our children to have similar or, sometimes the same experiences as their friends are having. We know they talk to each other and they share the fun that they're involved in. What advice do you have specifically for the parents who might be watching?
It's so true. I mean, we constantly hear from our children that, these are the activities or the camps or the different travel that their friends are going through. And we don't want them to miss out. We want them to experience these different things. And we don't want our kids to be bored. There's nothing worse than hearing that bored. So, you really have to get creative and look at some of the other activities that are available. We talked about the library, but there's also some of the community recreation programs that have summer camps that have outings and swimming and sports and art, and they're usually at a much lower cost than some of these larger programs or away camps. Consider if you are fortunate enough to be a parent that can stay home for a portion or all of the summer, maybe look at connecting with some of the other parents, and create some sort of family outings where you plan some park activities, park soccer games where it's a match of all the kids local, almost creating your own summer adventure camp. And just by having a big, a water balloon fight or something like that, that's really going to still allow all the kids to be together and them not feeling like they're missing out on something.
That's one of the things that I'm trying to do this summer is instead of going to sort of a full-time daycare situation, I had to look around to see what other kind of opportunities, camps, day camps might be available. And so this summer for us is going to have a lot more variety in those things. And I also thought too, there may be opportunities that parents might want to look into about maybe volunteering at one of these day camps, and that may help to reduce the cost of, your child's personal experience. I'm doing this myself this summer for a week. And so it's almost like a combined little mini vacation, but also everyone's having fun, everyone's participating, and there's been a way to reduce those costs as well. So that was sort of other things that I thought of as things that parents can maybe look into. Now, of course, as parents, heading into summer, we think that the learning might be stopping, but I think that this is an opportunity that we can help our children and teach them some financial literacy. So can you just talk about some strategies with that over the summer?
Oh, most definitely. Parents can, use this opportunity as they're planning their own budget to help their children learn the steps and teach them about financial, money management, and taking the idea that even setting a goal, have them involved in that. Have that discussion, do the round table with them to say, what are we looking at for our adventure, and let's plan this together. Giving them these tools are the key to their own financial future success. It's a life skill, and it's something they need to learn. So if you can take a look at the budget and say, all right, guys, let's plan our activity. And maybe if, depending on how many children or what the situation is, they each get to plan something. Well, make them do the research. And I know I did this with my kids, is that they would actually do the deep dive. If they were planning something or they really wanted to experience something, they're more than capable of finding all that information on the internet. They're pretty savvy when it comes to that. So they'll know, how much entry to an activity is going to be. What's it going to cost to maybe have a snack while they're there, or thinking about parking or location. How far is it going to be to travel? They can actually begin to work that through. And when they get to see that reality, especially if there's more than one child, now you have to make them look at that over, okay, how many children? 3, 4, whatever the number. Now they get to plan that and realize, okay, maybe mom and dad aren't just being such, sticklers when it comes to those activities. They start to see the reality a little bit, that things are not free, and sometimes we have to realize there's a cost. So let them help you plan that through. Let them look at those numbers so that they can realize, here are the activities that we really want to choose. And then maybe it's also helping when it comes to saving. So if they're suddenly the ones saying, oh, can we stop at McDonald's? Or no, but I can put that money towards our activity. Let's hold off doing that so that we can put that towards the goal that we're working on together. Then they have that strive for achievement. And maybe it's even something as simple as going to the movies. Everything's expensive. So let's plan that. We know when we're going to do it. How do we get to that together?
I agree. And I think when we have maybe the kids that are at the younger age, where maybe you just make it a little bit of visible when you're talking about setting aside those savings to do that activity. You could have something visual, just have a jar in the kitchen, label it movie, label it vacation, label it whatever the plan is. And maybe your child, if maybe you give them an allowance, or maybe you encourage them. Maybe you say, if you do maybe this little chore, you could earn, a few cents, or $1, whatever that looks like, where you can, not only are you teaching them that, work is important and that you are compensated for that, but as well, there's that financial management too. So I think that the summer is a unique time where we can help our kids in that way. So I appreciate your thoughts on that. So now, maybe for those viewers, the mere thought of summer, the added expenses that can come with this time of year, it may be creating some extra financial stress at a time when they're overwhelmed and they maybe want a bit of a break. They don't know what to do. What's your advice for viewers who are maybe feeling that financial strain right now?
Yeah, I think it does come back to starting with taking a look at the budget, taking a look and beginning calmly to go through each of those items and really, dive into what is there and what is needed. We are feeling stressed, and I don't think there's anyone out there who hasn't seen a change in their budget, hasn't seen a change in the impact of our groceries, our gas, all of those expenses. So, the stress is real. And sometimes it does mean that you've looked at it, you've tried, and maybe you do need to reach out and speak to somebody and seek some help so that they can give you some guidance. They can maybe with fresh eyes look at your situation, pull out some information that you might not have seen before. And I think that is really the most important thing, because the stress on our bodies, on our minds, when it comes to financial stress, it really can impact us physically, and you do need to take care and talk to somebody.
Yeah, I agree, especially if someone is heading into the summer now where they have a lot hanging over their head, where maybe they have a lot of debt hanging over them. They don't know what to do. They feel like they maybe won't have an opportunity to decompress over the summer months. I think you're right. They should seek out some professional advice, someone like yourself. What kind of options might you talk to about somebody?
Well, when it comes to our meetings, and of course, it's important to note that, these are all free. So people can come see me, and it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I'm going to see, Kirsten at BDO and I'm going to have to file a bankruptcy. That's not the case. In fact, I'm going to try whatever I can to find a way to help you budget through, to be able to maybe figure out a way to pay your debt in something like a snowball, kind of repayment if you've got multiple debts out there. What's key is not overextending yourself further to try to use high interest lenders, avoiding those things. So if you came in to see me, we would sit down and go through the options. We would look at that budget. We'd look at, what is happening when it comes to your income. Are there ways of being able to maybe help lift that a little bit? But if ultimately there's not, well, then we do have choices and we can look at other options.
I think that's really great, and I appreciate the information and the advice that you've got. With the couple of minutes that we have left, do you have any final thoughts for our viewers?
Well, I think the most important thing is, as I've said throughout, is remembering that, summer, yes, is a time where we want to experience the wonders of the outdoor and take advantage of the sunshine and the warm weather. But remembering that it's the memories, and remembering that the most important thing is not what you're spending, but it's what you're doing. So be together. Take the time, plan some activities, find some things in your neighborhood that maybe you didn't even realize were there. Do some Google searching, do a little planning, and you'd be surprised at what you'd be able to go forward with.
And I think for those who have that financial stress and they need that relief, as they head into the summer, I think now is a good time that they should reach out to somebody like yourself, talk about the options that might be available to them to relieve that pressure, head into the summer months and feel a little bit better about where they're going. Now, for viewers who may want to reach out to you, Kirsten, how can they do that?
Well, you can definitely reach out by phone at 1-855-BDO Debt, or our website, bdodebt.ca. If they want to reach me personally, it's Bradley at bdo.ca. And any of those options, you'll be connected with someone who's going to be there to help you. It's going to listen and is going to see you through to a new financial freedom.
Well, Kirsten, thank you so much for being here again. Really appreciate your advice and your expertise. And I also want to thank you, our viewers, for watching. Until next time, I'm Shannon Jackson.